Thank you for watching. Welcome to my TED Talk, Kinship, a force stronger than family. Many children have fond memories of moving moments with their family or friends. Kids enjoy their friends' company at their house, showing off their new tricks or gadgets they have, enjoying blissful youth, surrounded within that bubble of innocence they are afforded. Well, for me, my childhood was atypical. So let me tell you a story. When I was a kid, about 2 or 3 years old, I remember my mom and dad divorcing. When I was a kid, I remember my mom and I starting a new life in a new city, in a new state, in a new country. When I was a kid, I remember regularly waking up to my mom and stepdad raging, hating, and berating each other, waiting for that once-a-year return to the safe haven, my escape. That was my father's place in Florida. Crazy, isn't it? How such a young child can remember stuff like that? Luckily, though, it wasn't just crumbling cookies. Through all of that, I am here today to talk to you all about why kinship is so important. Having just arrived in Massachusetts for my first day of school, I promptly walked into the classroom and realized I could not understand what anyone was saying. From the very beginning, I did not fit in, a black sheep amongst a herd. You see, my mom and I immigrated from Mexico, and from day one, we only had each other. So we mutually created a whole life for ourselves from scratch. We went to school or work. We built relationships. But most of all, we formed bonds, our kinships with others. We were thriving in our new life. Everything was looking up in our uncertain existence. And for a short while, life was good. Sadly, however, all things good must eventually come to an end. I was 5 when I remember their first fight. I remember thinking to myself, is this what life in America is supposed to be? The so-called American dream. Every time they would fight, it was a tug of war between insurmountable emotional pain and suffering, warring for which one would make me crack first. Spoiler alert, they're the same thing. And so every time they fought, I bled the blues. In fact, by the time I reached the 4th grade, my skin thickened around me in defense against anything that could cut deeper than sticks and stones because I was too afraid of the uncertainty that vulnerability gave to me. Why? Because there was too much pain in the trauma of having loved ones betray each other. I wasn't even in the 5th grade yet when I wanted my friend to start coming over to stop the devastating fates of those battles of the titans of my house. We had been friends for 7 years by that point when he first witnessed my parents fighting. And despite my indifference and my brushing it off, at that very moment, he saw all the battle scars my mind bore. Afterwards, he understood why my liveliness slowly started to drain away as my parents would blindly scream and screech. I thought he would never talk to me again. Yet, when he witnessed the flailing and failing of my parents, his actions spoke to me louder than any word could. A simple hug that conveyed to me, "Hey, you look like you're hurting badly. Let me help with that. Everything is going to be okay." He was the first of my kin. He was, is, and always will be. We created an inextricable bond, a promise that we would support each other through the thick and the thin because unfortunately he was going through a similar situation at home. To help each other, we drew lines between our blues as blueprints to divide and conquer and became brothers in arms to navigate through the war that was our obscure foundations of a family. To being embarrassed in public by my parents' outbursts. to being berated, put down, and called out, we acted as medics to mitigate the bullet-like wounds those words would cause. We continued holding the forts of our unconquerable souls by loving each other unconditionally. In effect, our fraternal love transmuted my suffocating thick skin from a prison to a shining set of armor forged to face the world. The love we fostered symbiotically helped us to outgrow the bystander role of the collage of wrath that would unfold. Fortunately, nothing lasts forever, bad things included. Little did I know, the end of my mom and stepdad's relationship was near. Their dreaded divorce. It was the end. The end of the fighting, the crying, the yelling, and the cops at the door. Finally, the light at the end of the tunnel was in my reach. Everything would be downhill from here on out. I could breathe a sigh of hope. Or so I thought. My best friend had transferred to a different school that year, so I could no longer seek consolation from him. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, my mom, in an inebriated state, accidentally told me that I was adopted by my dad. Just when I thought all the bad was behind me, I found out I was a broken branch on another family tree. On top of being alone and depressed, I now had a sense of guilt growing that I never actually deserved my father's love. After months of agonizing and solitude, I resolved to ask him. Despite his loving actions up until that point, I needed to confront him to see if he would truly call me his own. So, on one of my stays in Florida, when we had a simple dinner, on one occasion did I ever question whether he was my father and I his son. After waiting months to ask this dreaded question, I worked up the courage and meekly asked, Dad, is it true I'm not your actual son? Furrowing his brow, looking across the dinner table of just the two of us, he replied, Of course you are. Why? His eyes did not betray him. He was serious. He was honest. But most of all, he was loving. Being overwhelmed by my joyous acceptance, my body's defenses raised with a flinch. I knew this story. I had seen how this played out. Toxic, like nuclear waste. Empty sorrows, empty sorries, empty words, and empty love. That's what I had come to expect from my first 14 years. And not to be tricked by this joker of care, I asked, why? How? I'm not even related to you by blood. With a bewildered expression, he gently replied with, because I love you. I wish I had cried that night. I wish I was not so afraid of not being loved for my kind, gentle, and honest nature. I wished a lot of things growing up, but they never came. Yet, I am here today, happier than ever, because of one reason: my kinships. To my mom, who is a broken soul herself, who gave up all that she once knew to give me a chance in this world. To my father, who accepted a child who wasn't his own. To my stepdad, who did the same thing, doubled over. To my best friend, and to the many more of my kin with whom I share a bond, we treated each other like family. We became a family despite not actually being family. We connected on a level so deep, so intimate, by showing each other our worst and our best. And yes, we judged each other at times, but at the end of the day, we wouldn't want a single thing to change about one another. That's what I call love. That's what kinship is to me. Thank you.